Hey, everybody, we're going to talk about my all-time Tennessee Vols football roster. Now, guys, this ain't some kind of list of career stats or anything like this. This list here is basically in their prime. Would I want to win a football game tomorrow? Who is going to win me that football game? And I've got 25 guys here, 11 on offense, 11 on defense, and 3 on special teams. And I'm not going to waste any more of your time. I'm going to get right to it. And the first person I'm going to talk about is the kickoff return, which is Evan Berry. Now, from 2014 to 2017, man, this guy was electric, especially in 2015. Man, a bunch of kickoff returns. He had 5 kickoff returns for his career. He is first all-time in kickoff return yardage at the University of Tennessee. Evan Berry is the brother of Eric Berry, which we'll talk about him later. But he is my kickoff return person on my list here of all-time Vols. All right, now let's get to the kicker. Now, the kicker is Jeff Hall. And if you remember anything about the 1998 Tennessee Vols football team, you know a lot about Jeff Hall. He was a team captain, which is very rare for a kicker to be a team captain, which just tells you how highly he was thought of. Jeff Hall won a ton of games for us. He bailed us out in the Syracuse game. He bailed us out in the Florida game in 98. He also won the game against Georgia in 1995, his freshman year. Jeff Hall was a first-team All-SEC kicker in 95 and 98. And Jeff Hall, man, he's a Tennessee boy, and he was a great Vol, and he is my kicker. Now, punter, another Tennessee boy, is Dustin Colquitt. The family of kickers. Dad was a kicker. His younger brother was a kicker. But to me, he was the best out of all of that family. He was an All-American in 2003. He was a Gray Guy Award finalist, which is the best kicker in the country. And he was runner-up to that. Dustin Colquitt, some memories on Dustin Colquitt. 2003, Miami. Tennessee was outmanned. They were definitely the least talented team on the field against that Miami team that was loaded. They went down there and won that game because of defense and the punting of Dustin Colquitt, getting Miami pinned deep and putting Tennessee in better positions for field position. So Dustin Colquitt is my punter. Now let's get to defense here. And let's start with the safeties on defense, okay? I've got 2 safeties. The first is Eric Berry, and he doesn't need no introduction. 2009 Thorpe Award winner, 2008 SEC Defensive Player of the Year, 2008, 2009 Consensus All-American. He was also part of that 2007 SEC. He was all SEC freshman in 2007. He started from day one at Tennessee. And he was just an amazing, you can make an argument he was the best defensive player in Tennessee history. You can make a real argument. He made that kind of an impact. Eric Berry could come up and he could cover your best receiver. He could come up and make a sure tackle, and he could deliver a big hit. Eric Berry. And I was so fortunate to get to watch him a lot live during that era. I was single and I wasn't married and I didn't have kids. And you know what? I had ample opportunity to go to all these games, and I got to see him play a lot. Loved every minute of it. Now, the next safety that I'm going to talk about is Dale Carter, going a little bit further back. Dale Carter was at Tennessee in 1990 and 1991, where he was first-team All-SEC both those years. Dale was a great kickoff return, punt returner, too. He was an instant impact guy. He made every defensive team so much better. 1990 Vols had a great defensive team, and that was in a large part because of Dale Carter. And he also went on to have a great NFL career, too. I think he was like second-team All-Pro a couple years. So Dale Carter, he was a stud, just like Eric Berry. But anyway, that concludes the safeties. Let's get to the cornerback. So now here's a name I want to throw at you that you'd never think I threw at you. But this is my list. and I'll pick it accordingly, right? It's my list. I know a lot of you, I'm sure you all will disagree, but Deron Jenkins, I know that's a name a lot of y'all forgot, but he was first team All SEC in 1995 for Tennessee. He had 12 career interceptions in his 4 years at Tennessee. He was a lockdown corner, great football player. Let me tell you about Deron Jenkins. My memory of him: he shut down Eddie Glenn, Antonio Glenn for Ohio State. I know I probably butchered that name, but he was Ohio State's number one receiver in '95, and he shut him down. He was the Biletnikoff Award winner for Ohio State that year. Shut him down. He was a shutdown corner. He had everybody. He was a major reason that '95 Vols team was so special. He made our defense so much better because he could literally go one-on-one with any wide receiver and shut them down. So, Deron Jenkins. The second one is Jonathan Hefney. Jonathan Hefney played in 2004, 2007. He was All SEC 2 years. Second team in 2006, and in 2007, he was a first team All SEC. So, two great cornerbacks right there. Now, let's get to the linebackers. This is probably my favorite section right here that made the most memories with me. Al Wilson, okay, 1998 first team All-American. He was a 3-year starter. He was a national champion. He was on the national championship team in 1998 as well. And man, when you look up leadership in the dictionary, there's a picture of Al Wilson. Al Wilson, he was, in my opinion, the most important piece of that whole 98 team. There's a lot of important pieces, don't get me wrong. Al Wilson was the important piece. He's the best linebacker in Tennessee history, hands down, in my opinion, when you put all factors together. So Al Wilson is one on the linebacker list. Two is Gerard Mayo. Gerard Mayo was an absolute stud, too. And when I looked at the stats on this guy, it just blew me away. In 2 years, from 2006 to 2007, and he played from 2005 to 2007, I think that's right, 2005 to 2007, but in 2006 and 2007, those last 2 years, he had 223 tackles. That's insane. He had over 140 tackles his senior year. Gerard Mayo was... he could do it all. He could take an interception back to the house like he did against Arkansas in 2007. He could, get after the quarterback, make a sack. Gerard Mayo. And he went on to have a great NFL career, too. He was actually a coach for the Patriots, Gerard Mayo. And then the last name on this list for linebackers I have is Leonard Little, 1997 first-team All-American. He was an All-American in the years 96 and 97. He was the first team in 97. He was the second team in 96. But this guy, they did all kinds of things with him. He was defensive end for the first 2 years at Tennessee. In his senior year, they moved him to linebacker, outside linebacker, and they tried to get him in position to kind of trick offenses because they didn't know where he was going to be, and he was all the time blitzing. But he did great in that role at linebacker. So I know that's a little weird to put him at linebacker, but he did play linebacker his last year there, and he was really, really good in that outside linebacker position. Now let's get to defensive line. John Henderson's the first name. The 2000 Outland Trophy Award winner. If anybody remembers John Henderson, they just remember dominance. This guy could take over a game. From the years 2000 to 2001, he made that defense very, very special. Albert Haynesworth was another defensive line on that in that era. Really great defensive line, and John Henderson was the best of that lot. He was a 2000 and 2001 All-American, and big old John Henderson. My favorite play of John Henderson was when he clotheslined that running back for South Carolina in 2000. A lot of good memories with John Henderson. Him putting the hurt on Rex Grossman in the 2001 Florida game, too, is another memory of John Henderson. But John Henderson, and then the other person that I've got defensive line is, I'm going to go way back on you guys. I never saw this guy play, but I've heard stories, and he's in the NFL Hall of Fame, and he's in the College Football Hall of Fame, and he's one of 4 people that has his jersey retired at the University of Tennessee, and that's Doug Atkins. Now, back in those days, guys, a defensive lineman was like 210, 220. Doug Atkins was 270. He's a big man, and he dominated. He won 2 championships with the Bears. He was a dominant guy. He played on General Neyland's 1951 national championship team. He was a 1952 first-team All-American. Doug Atkins. Now, when you get your jersey retired at the University of Tennessee, there's only 4 players that have their jersey retired, and I hope I'm saying this right. It's Johnny Majors, Peyton Manning, Doug Atkins, and I'm trying to think of the other one. But that's 3 right there. So, Reggie White. So that's 4. Hard to get your jersey retired here at the University of Tennessee. They don't do the Colorado thing where your daddy's the coach and they retire the next year. You have to earn it here. As far as defensive ends now, let's get to this. We just brought his name up, Reggie White. He is, again, just like Doug Atkins, he's a member of the College and NFL Hall of Fame. He was the 1983 SEC Player of the Year. Reggie White, he doesn't need any introduction. He might be the greatest NFL Defensive Player of the Year. You can make an argument between him and Lawrence Taylor as being the 2 best defensive players that ever played the football game. Reggie White, if you look back, he played 40 years ago, but the film that I saw in Reggie White, it was very similar to the NFL. Just take over a game. You had to bring somebody over to chip on him, double team him, because if you tried to block him by tackle by themselves, he'd eat them up. But Reggie White is one of my defensive ends. The second defensive end that I've got here on this countdown here is Derek Barnett. Now, 2016 Consensus All-American. He ended his career with the most sacks in Tennessee history with 33. He was a nasty guy. He played with the edge. He was a great football player. He was probably, outside of Josh Dobbs, my favorite player from that Butch Jones era. Just a Vol for life and a great football player. He's a Tennessee boy out of Nashville. The thing that I remember about Derek Barnett was how he took over that Florida game in 2016. The game was in the balance. I think Tennessee was still down a touchdown or 4 points, and he was just blowing off that line and getting sacks and putting Florida in 3rd and long situations or making them punt. But, Derek Barnett is a legend, and he is my other defensive end on this list. Now let's get to offense, and let's get with the offensive tackles. The first guy I'm going to talk about here is Darnell Wright, 2022 first-team All-SEC. This guy went 19 straight games without giving up a sack at tackle. That's amazing in the SEC. And the thing I remember about Darnell Wright was that Alabama game, and I cannot remember the player for Alabama, but everybody talked about him. He was one of the first 3 picks in that 2023 draft. He plays for the Texans now. I apologize for not knowing his name, but shut him down. He never put any pressure on Hendon Hooker, and that was because of Darnell Wright shutting him down. He was that kind of tackle. He was an absolute dominant force. And the second name I want to get on here is I'm going back a little further, going 30-plus years back, Antone Davis. 1990 unanimous All-American. He was a Jacobs Blocking Trophy Award winner. He's part of an offensive line in the era in the late 80s and the early 90s that they called the TVA. They allowed Tony Thompson, Chuck Webb, and Reggie Cobb to all be 1,000-yard rushers because of that great offensive line. You talking, that's the best era of offensive line that Tennessee has had, in my opinion, and Antone Davis led that group. Offensive guards now. Cozy Coleman. He's the first guy up here. He's 1999 unanimous All-American, 98, 99 first-team All-SEC. He helped Jamal Lewis and Travis Henry to big rushing seasons. He had, in 97, Jamal Lewis ran for, I think, almost 1,300 yards because of Cozy Coleman. Travis Henry ran for almost 1,000 yards in 99. Travis Henry almost ran for 1,000 yards in 1998. And that was because of the big holes that Cozy Coleman in that offensive line was opening up. The second guy that I've got on the guard is Harry Galbraith. Going back to the 80s, guys, the 1987 Jacobs Blocking Award winner, second team All-American in 1987. How can you be the Jacobs Blocking Award winner and be second team All-American? That's weird. Funny thing on him, Johnny Major said he's the best run blocking offensive lineman that he ever coached. Johnny Major's watched a lot of football, guys. He coached a lot of football players. For him to make that comment, that shows you how great Harry Galbraith was. Now let's get to the center. A guy that we just saw play. He hasn't been gone long, and that is Cooper Mays, a 2024 first-team All-American, first-team All-SEC. He was the school's first finalist for the Remington Award. Had 45 starts in his career, went 26 games without allowing a sack. Cooper Mays, you don't understand the difference that Cooper Mays did too. Just that doesn't even put into effect what he did getting the team lined up and getting them ready to snap the ball. I remember in 2023 when Joe Milton was the quarterback, it hurt him immensely that Cooper Mays missed the first 3 or 4 games that year. It really hurt him and put us behind the 8 ball because not having your center in there, a good center like Cooper Mays, it hurts you badly. Tight end, this is a no-brainer. Jason Witten, he's a borderline Hall of Famer himself. He may get in one day in the NFL Hall of Fame. He was a 2002 first-team All-SEC, ended his career with almost 800 career receiving yards. He had 8 receiving TDs. Jason Witten, I think everybody's favorite memory of him was that 2002 game against Arkansas in the 6 or 7 overtime game where he caught that TD, and we won that game. There wasn't much positive in 2002 on Tennessee. We lost to Florida, we lost to Alabama, but that win over Arkansas at home was a good memory. Now, let's get to wide receivers. And here is my favorite Vol of all time, and this is because I was a child and I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any brothers to play with, and I would envision that I was Carl Pickens out in my yard, and I would throw the football up, and I would envision Andy Kelly throwing me the football, and I was Carl Pickens. But I still remember Carl Pickens catching those long passes from Andy Kelly and running it in the end zone and hearing John Ward over the radio talk about, 15, 10, 5, give him 6, Carl Pickens. And Carl Pickens was a 1990 and a 1991 first team All-SEC. Guy was a freak athlete. He was a track guy and had really great speed. He was a kickoff guy early in his career at Tennessee. He actually played cornerback. I think he was the MVP in the Cotton Bowl, in the 89 Cotton Bowl, but I'm not 100% sure. But the dude, all he did was make plays, and he ended his career with over 1,700 yards and 13 TDs. And I know, guys, you think, well, 1,700 yards is not that much. In today's time, it's not. Back then, it was a lot. People didn't throw the ball like they do now. And here's another name that you would probably think I would not think of, but it's Robert Meacham. Now, this guy was dominant. He was a 2006 Consensus All-American. He was a 2006 first-team All-SEC. In 2006, which was his just breakout year, and he had to share a lot of those balls with Jason Swain and Brett Vincent. I can't remember. There's 3 receivers, and he had over 1,200 yards receiving, and he had over 2,000 for his career. Robert Meacham had some just monster games in 2006. I remember the game against Cal where he had 2 or 3 receiving TDs where he took a short pass, took it to the end zone. Also, the Georgia game. He just always come to play. He had a decent career, played for the Saints. He won a Super Bowl. But Robert Meacham is the other receiver that I've got on my list here. Now, let's get to running backs here. This is a name a lot of y'all are not going to remember, but I'm older than a lot of you all, I'd say, and it's Chuck Webb. Now, Chuck Webb was not here long, guys. He really only played 1 full season, and then in 1990, he tore his ACL against Pacific. This guy was amazing. I mean, if he would, I don't hesitate. I do not stutter on this at all. If Chuck Webb doesn't get injured, he's easily the greatest running back in Tennessee history. In 1989, Chuck Webb had over 1,200 yards rushing, and he had a couple games where he had almost 300 yards rushing. Like I said, he had a big game against the national champion Colorado Buffaloes in 1990 where we tied them up. And then I think it was the next game, he tore his ACL against Pacific in a game that we won by 60 points. It's just a real shame. Never was the same. He never came back to Tennessee, and we lost him forever. So, what a great running back Chuck Webb was. But he would be on my roster if I had to win a game tomorrow, Chuck Webb. The next guy, another guy that we just lost, Dylan Sampson. He was here last year. He played here 3 or 4 years. He had over 1,500 total yards, all-purpose yards, last year. But the years before that, he was used more out of the backfield to catch the football. He didn't have a ton of receiving yards last year. He was predominantly running the football. But, man, the yardage this guy gained last year, he was our offense. He was our everything. It's really hard to put in words how important he was for us last year. He was the 2024 SEC Offensive Player of the Year. He was a third-team All-American, first-team All-SEC, and he got drafted by the Cleveland Browns. So he is my second running back, Dylan Sampson. Now, the last name on this list, 25 players. I went through special teams, I went through defense, and I went through offense, and this is a no-brainer, guys, right? There's no really drum roll needed for this. The QB is Peyton Manning, right? Probably a top 5, maybe top 3 quarterback all time. He threw for over 1,100 yards. He threw for over 11,000 yards in his career at Tennessee. He was the 1997 Maxwell Award winner. He was a 2-time All-American. Peyton Manning, in his senior year, won the SEC championship game. And he's easily the best quarterback in Tennessee football history. And I hate it that he couldn't win us a national title, but he did win us a SEC championship in his last year. And guys, that's my 25 players from special teams, defense, and offense and this is the roster that if I had to win a game tomorrow, this is who I would put on the field. Let me know, guys. Where did I mess up? Who would you put in there in those spots? I want to hear from you all. Let me know what you all think, and I'll talk to you all later.